So welcome to the It's a Whole Thing podcast. My name's Dominic. Matt, if you
My
want
name's
to
Matt.
introduce yourself. And we're joined today by Wick. Now otherwise known as Chaos.
Is witch.
Sorry?
Witch, witch is
Yeah,
literally
okay.
pronounced like
No,
Witch, witch. Yeah. So imagine growing up and the rhymes and the names.
Witch,
all
okay.
good fun.
I'm sure it was, yeah. I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
People asking you where your broomstick was and stuff. Yeah. Well, thanks for that.
are the other kinder ones.
Yeah, I'm sure. Obviously, the director of the infamous kind of cult film Ballistic, Ecks versus Sever, as well as 2019's The Driver, 2020's Paradise Z, and One Night in Bangkok. Many films and many different roles, which is what I was going to talk about as well. Because when you said you don't really technology doesn't kind of agree with you. I've noticed that you've done stuff like you've operated cameras and stuff like that as well. So you know how to operate them enough. It's just maybe setting it up.
Yeah, I mean, I've DP'd a lot of my own movies, and I've DP'd for other directors as well.
That's
I love being a cinematographer, and being my age, I got my start, and even way back in film school and coming out, on film, on literal film, 8mm, 16mm,
yeah,
Super 16, and then 35 and stuff, and I knew how to change film magazines and everything. But then like 10, 15 years ago when we used the red for the first time, it's a new language. The film language is the same. So I still depending what we're doing, like for example, say like the Alexa, because the sensor is different than the red and stuff, we'll do camera tests and I'll set the ASA, be it like 800 ASA, whatever, for the, and all that, shuttering, all the stuff, like I know the math of it, but to actually physically do it, because you can do everything in the camera. Like there's like literally like, especially even today, like, with these newer cameras, most of the times you don't even need ND filters, which is something you always needed when you were outdoors, like shooting exterior and you can set, it has it in cameras, but I don't, like I can just call it out, right? Like, all right, I feel like we need an ND6 right now, and then the AC will come in, hit two buttons, and like, oh, there you go, I can't do that myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just an idiot pointing the camera, but everything else is done for me, and not for any other reason except I really don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Because they change bodies all the time. Even if it's the Alexa, they'll update, they'll upgrade, firmware changes, because like, just when you get to know the camera, because let's say, you're shooting a movie and you're using it nonstop for, 20, 30 days. And then so I see the AC do it. And then like, okay, so if I want to change speeds, like going from 24 or 2390 to like, 96 frames, like, okay, I know how to do this now, and then you finish the movie, months passed or whatever, and then you come back and it's changed. Yeah. Like it's not even the same anymore, like
everything's moving at such a different pace now, isn't it?
So I just gave up, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I've got fantastic first AC. The second AC who handles the camera always comes with the camera, and they're always good. They're always the reason why they're second ACs is because they come with the rental houses here in Thailand, so they're trained specifically. So there's no point in me learning.
No,
it's not. No.
You tend to work.
There are people there are people who are friends of mine who are DPs who are like shocked at that. They're like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, but it's like, it's different people, different strokes. And, Did
that just come from you starting off as a director initially then?
Yes.
Because my girlfriend is a DOP. So she's obviously all about cameras from the start now. So I'm assuming she'll carry on doing that the rest of her career.
Well, I was into photography when I was like 14, 15. And I was I started taking it seriously in New Zealand. I was in boarding school in New Zealand, and they had a photography class, and I bought a camera, and it was a Pentax, and I got to know the camera really well. spent a lot of time in the dark room learning all of that, and then, just being taught the different lenses, I mean, that was a point where I realized image quality didn't really come from cameras. It came from lenses. The glass is way more important than the camera, which is something I still believe today. People like to argue about the Red or the Alexa or whatever. To me, I think they're both great cameras, and even like lower end cameras, but still high quality cameras, I think the sensors are all great and everything. But the advantage that the Alexa and the Reds have is that the lenses that you can put on, even within, like some DSLRs, you do have the adapter and you can use, say, the ultra primes or whatever, but glass is everything to me. Like good quality glass always beats the camera body. But my love for photography, came from high school. And then when I went to film school, I was very lucky. In my first year in film school, I met someone who became my best friend, and all he wanted to do is be a cinematographer. So he basically shot 80% of this work we did in college. But we were learning at the same time and everything, and I loved it. And in my first year, I was just playing around with the Super 8 and the 16 millimeter, a lot, studying different exposures with different film speeds and stuff, because that was something that was a next level up from just, point and shoot cameras, where you can play with film stock and everything, different film cameras and see the grain and all that stuff. And then when I got into directing, I always wanted to become a director, and I got the opportunity to straight out of college here in Thailand. And basically I ended up just operating with a DP, with my DP, my Thai DP, and I just loved it. And then when I went to America, I wasn't allowed to do any of that because I wasn't in the unions, and I could just be the director. But I was fortunate where I worked with really, really good DPs. Julio Macat shot Ballistic, and then I did a lot of commercials. And when I was doing commercials, the production house I was with they're a niche company but very successful. And the owner of the production company, his whole philosophy was he just hired film people to be his directors, DPs, or whatever. So I got to shoot a couple of commercials with Russell Carpenter, that caliber cinematographers, and I always learned. I always just like to learn, watch, talk to them, and just, they're all these people. They're very giving. You can ask them anything, they'll tell you, stories and everything. And I just worked with 4 or 5. I think all of them have won an Academy Award now. The DPs that I work with regularly in commercials. And then when I came back to Thailand, the reality of it was that it was just difficult finding a DP that I could work with here in Thailand that had the experience, because it's very different how things are done. They're similar, but there are enough differences where it's aggravating. And because it's Thailand, it's a much smaller country. The pond isn't as big. Yeah. So, and then there was no one to say no. I just started shooting my own stuff, and it was going well and everything. And then one of my friends, Dustin, who did a movie with me here, and then he was going to direct a movie in Vietnam. So he asked me to go be his DP, and that was my first time being a cinematographer for someone else. And through the years, it's like I actually enjoy being a cinematographer more because I love being on set. I love working on set, and but when you're the DP, you get to do the same thing, all the cool stuff, but you don't have to deal with any of the bullshit, like the small little detail bullshit that a director has to do. I've been fortunate most of my career. I've worked with really, good actors that are good to be with stuff, but we've had problems. Actors,
of course,
it's a difficult thing on set.
Yeah.
But then when you're the DP, and the actor doesn't want to come out from his or her trailer.
Not your
I don't
problem.
smoke anymore, but I just grab my cigarettes and walk out and be like, all right, call me when you're ready.
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to have you be the
You
one.
don't exactly need to be a people person, do you, for a DP job, I suppose. But you kind of have to try and make everybody happy when you're a director. You get most of the praise, but you get all of the blame. If it goes wrong. So it's kind of like
I really enjoy being a DP now. Like most of the time, I'm like, people, I'm like, can I just be the, I just want to shoot. Like I don't want to. And if you're the DP, you don't have to raise the financing, which is in the independent world, it's a more difficult thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you just wait around and someone calls you and say, hey, are you free, now and come shoot, stuff. And you do, and then, but because I live in Thailand and I'm not in LA, I'm not in America or Europe or anything, like I have to do other things too. So, a lot of times, I also go out and do, second unit or create stunts for other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Whether they're shooting in Europe, people I know through the contacts I have, or they come here, Indian movies or whatever, and they need an action scene, whatever, I do a few of those too. So I love doing, I just love being on set. I'll do, if it's good people, whatever, I'll do.
Well, can I ask you? You mentioned the first film you did in Thailand. I think it was called Far, and I read that at the time that had the biggest budget of any film that had been made in Thailand. Is that true? And how did that come about for a first film?
No, not really. It wasn't the biggest budget. There had been movies with a bigger budget.
Right.
We had 22 million baht to make it, which at the time 22 million baht was probably around maybe $700,000-800,000 to make the movie.
Okay.
Which was a good budget. Like it would be the equivalent of like in the 90s, the equivalent of like a 25-30 million studio movie. Nothing big, but not, it wasn't a small indie.
Not small either, yeah.
But then, the company that we did it for were this like big, in England, it would be the equivalent of say like Sky or BT, like they were a television company, like the BBC, for example. Yeah. Like the biggest one in Thailand. And this was their first movie. So to promote it, what they did was they took the budget and then they times it by 2, and they called it 50 million baht movie, and they doubled it to promote it as the biggest movie. But that promotion was their marketing fee.
Yeah,
They marketed it. They marketed the fuck out of it. Props to them. They really did put in a massive marketing campaign, but it's for them. It's right pocket paying left pocket, because all the media was theirs, the channels and everything. So it wasn't really real money.
It's just shifting money around, trying to make it. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
But they just called it that, and they could technically, but it wasn't like they gave me 50 million to make the movie.
Yeah, little white lies almost. Right. Yeah.
But
interesting. So how does one, obviously you were living and working in Thailand after film school and stuff like that, how does a Ballistic script end up at your feet then? Because that's obviously being shot in Vancouver, but it is an American film, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So
it was a franchise picture.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers was a distributor. They had a deal with the Warner Brothers movie, in effect. And what happened was that after I did my movie here, the post experience, which is a recurring thing for me, wasn't that happy for me. And it was my first movie. I was young. When we wrapped, I was still only 25 at the time. And so I was like, I didn't want to stay in Thailand anymore. I was offered stuff and I just said no. And I went to LA and I had a VHS copy of my movie. And I took it with me and I wanted to go back to school. And I wanted to go to either the USC or UCLA. And I was really confident that having done a feature that did pretty well in Thailand, and I put subtitles on the movie, and I was just in my head, I was just going to arrive in LA and go to the admissions office, fill out the application form, give them my movie, and I was pretty confident that I would get accepted in an MFA program, and I never got that far. I had met a stunt coordinator, fight coordinator from LA in Thailand. His name's Philip Tan, and he worked on Batman at the time and many other movies. And really good guy. And anyways, he met me in Thailand, and he's like, you come out to LA, give me a call, I'll help you. You need to be doing something. And so when I got to LA, I gave him a call, and he told me to make some copies of the movie. So I did. I went down to this video store, still on VHS, and made 20 copies at $5 a copy. I still remember this very well. And I remember it very well because I came from Thailand, and it would have been like 50 cents a copy.
Right. Yeah.
$5 a copy. But anyway, so I did it. And then Philip, he had a network of people that he knew in LA, passed out the tape. And literally it was like within a week, I got my first job offer, and it was this production company in Santa Monica. I think they were called Sentinel. I forget. They're still around, but they do direct to DVD movies.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was like it was an offer for like this $5 million action movie. I don't even remember what the script was, but I just remember being super excited. I don't know if the movie would have happened or not, but I really wanted to do it. I was really excited, but that was just a start. And a few people had seen it, and then the more people had seen it, the more interest I got, and then I started taking meetings with these different producers that knew Philip Tan, and they all liked the movie. And one person in particular was Chris Lee, and he had just left. He was the president of TriStar. But then TriStar and Sony combined into one company, became Sony Pictures, and because TriStar was sort of like its own like New Line thing, so he left as president, but he had a deal on the Sony lot. And Chris Lee, he's from Hawaii. He's Chinese descent, first Asian person to run a studio, and he saw my movie, really liked it. We took a meeting. And he really liked me, really liked the movie. We talked about the movie, and he had just left the president world. So he was just starting his company as a producer. And back then, producers, they'd like to be managers too, or whatever, and even though it was sort of like he was managing me, but not really. It would be like he would be the producer, I would be the director, sort of partnership kind of thing, and this guy, he ran a studio. So I was like, sure, like, let's do that. So the first thing Chris Lee did was he sent me over to agent at ICM. And keep in mind, at this point in time, I have no idea what agents are. I have a vague idea, I'd never heard of ICM, CAA,
You didn't know who was good, who was bad. You didn't know anything.
I didn't even know what they were for.
Yeah.
I'd read about it in Premiere Magazine or whatever, like Tom Cruise, but it was a different world, right? That I never really paid attention to. And, but anyway, so I took a meeting with Robert Newman, who I was told was one of the best agents for directors. And he really is, he probably still is today, one of the best agents for directors. At the time he was representing Robert Rodriguez, Baz Luhrmann, just all these interesting, Stephen Norrington, like all these interesting directors, and we met, he saw the movie, he saw Fa. The meeting was 10 minutes, literally, like maybe less. He's like, Chaos, I watched the movie, I really like it, tell me what you want to do. And I was just like, I love John Woo, I love Michael Bay, I love, I love action movies. He's like, all right, okay. And he's like, all right, I'd be happy to be your client. Your agent. Yeah. And that was it. That was a meeting. And then we walked out of there, and Chris was really happy. He was really excited. He was telling me, like, Like this was a really big deal. Like I have no idea.
Yeah.
I did not have any idea. And literally within hours after leaving that meeting, Robert set up a meeting with me with Mike DeLuca, who was the president of New Line Cinema, the very next day. And DeLuca is a very cool guy. If you look him up, there's all these interesting stories, especially from like the early '90s and stuff, you know. And he's still a producer today. Really, really good guy. Knows his shit. Very smart about movies. And we met, and he was one of the few who like I met, and he was the first studio person that I met, and one of the real few who understood me, who understood where I came from, who understood that I was Asian, but you know, I grew up very Western influenced and Asian, like, you know, and he understood what kind of movies I wanted, and he gave me my very first job, which was to remake Ringo Lam's Full Contact. And it never happened. That's why you've never heard about it.
Yeah.
But he, excuse me. But it was my first job, and so I was developing that at New Line. We're looking for writers, you know. We got to the point where we actually had to cast for the Chow Yun Fat, you know, whatever role, and it was a few months into it. But to go back, because of that, because Mike DeLuca met me, liked me, and basically signed me up to a job. The sort of the way the town works was that as soon as that happened, everybody wanted to meet like the new toy in town, you know.
Yeah.
And then going back to Chris Lee, one of the things he was doing with his company was he also had partnered up with Joseph Kahn, who's a music video director, best known as for music video director, but he's done some movies too. Very, very talented person, like supremely talented. Joseph and I sat down at Chris's house and we watched my movie. And then Joseph really liked it. And we, you know, he's such a film geek. Like, you know, what I was just saying about, I don't know anything about tech. Like Joseph could build his own camera.
Yeah.
You know, like he knows everything about tech.
Always good to have someone like that around, isn't it?
You know, like everything. And he's always been that type of person. You know, he's very detailed oriented. He's obsessed. Like, you know, he's crazy. You know, like no, but we're still good friends. But Joseph, and you know, he's one of the top, if not the top, video directors, maybe of all time, music video directors, if you look up all his work and stuff. But he gave me the idea. He's like, you need to take this movie and you need to cut it to just like the super cool, like just super cool images, all the action and everything, you know. And he's like, you got to cut, and you got to put a rap song. You got to cut it to a killer rap song. And I was like, what? You know, like I didn't understand. He's like, okay, let me. And he gave it to his editor. And 4 or 5 days later, I go over, he calls me over, and I sit down with his editor. And his editor plays me this 3-minute reel, you know, that begins with my name, Chaos, you know, and I sat there, and I'm like, holy fuck, who did this? It just changed everything, you know. They put an Ice Cube song on it, and it was like really heavy, really badass, and it's like, yeah, this is gonna be your reel. And then Chris saw it, loved it, so then Chris sent that out, and I kid, like, based on that 3-minute reel, like I met everybody in town, like, you know, like all the, like Joel Silver, you know, Jerry Bruckheimer's, I mean, everybody, like, you know, wow. It was just, and it was just based like this 3-minute Asian action movie cut to Ice Cube.
Thank you, Ice Cube.
Like, you know, and that's how I started. And then I had you know, the offer started coming in for all these movies that have been made that people do know. And you know, I was meeting, you know, and talking about it. But at that time, I was the guy who had never done a Hollywood movie yet. But I had done a movie, so it was slightly better than coming in and not having done a movie. Yeah. People were taking me a bit more serious. But then the question was, you know, could I do a studio movie or whatever? But so, you know, things were taking a bit of time. And then Alan McElroy, the writer of Ecks versus Sever, he was shopping his script. And there were a lot of people interested. I know Joel Silver wanted to buy it, and I know 2 other companies wanted to buy it. but then it landed. And I remember Chris gave me the script, and I looked at the title, and I was like, I don't want to do a courtroom drama, because I literally thought like Kramer versus Kramer, was the first thing in my head.
Yeah.
I'm that.
So it was originally called Ecks versus Sever then?
It was always Ecks versus Sever, correct. And
right.
The funny story about it was, Warner Brothers didn't like the name Ecks versus Sever. So they always wanted a different movie, a title. No one could come up with one. And, for me, and you guys won't know this, no one will get this if they watch the movie Ballistic, because it's unrecognizable. But that's the movie you guys saw. Is not the movie that I made or I wanted to make, I've said this many times and stuff. So the influence for me was actually Bullet. There's not even a hint, but there's not even a hint of it. And so I understand people laugh when I say it, but I get it. But I wanted to make a very old school. I mean, if there's a behind the scenes making of it that they did for HBO, and Antonio Banderas even says, this movie is a little different from the others because it's very, it's not so modern. It's very old school approach, single. I mean, like it was a very methodical approach that me and the crew wanted to do. We didn't want to do a movie with quick cuts and everything. We wanted, it wasn't edited that way, the released version. So because of Bullet, I was the one to suggest, can we call it? Warner Brothers owns Bullet, but I couldn't get Bullet, so I was like, can we call it Ballistic? Because it's similar enough to Bullet in my head, and I'm like, Ballistic. I'm happy with that. And they went away, and then they came back and like, yeah, we love Ballistic, but it was a Ballistic Ecks versus Sever.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I was like, can we drop the Ecks versus Sever?
Yeah. It's always you kind of met in the middle.
But for some reason they did it, and it just became ridiculous. But that was the beginning. That was
Is that when you started to notice that things were going to start kind of going south a little bit?
Well, Trevor Rabin, and again, if you look him up, done some big movies as a composer. Like Armageddon. I mean, like Trevor Rabin is a massive name. Like back then he had like done many, many, many big movies. He was my composer during post, and he called me one morning as I was driving to the production office, and he was like, "Why'd you fire me?" And that was the first time I'd ever heard of it. I didn't know, but that was when and then I got to the office, and my editor, everyone had been replaced.
Wow.
Yeah, so
and this was this after a test screening or something?
It was like 2 days after the test screening. And that's my fault. The test screening is my fault, because I assumed that the test screening was a test screening.
Yeah.
Was a place where you could try out anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that a movie lived and died with the test screening. So I remember it exactly. About an hour into the movie, which it played exactly how I wanted, everything. But then right around in the middle of the movie, there was a scene that I wasn't sure would work, but we were trying to build it in, and they kept some of it, but they played it the beluga whale,
right.
Which was in my version of the movie, it's layered in from the beginning,
right? Like
there's those things that it doesn't happen by chance, and we trained this beluga whale and stuff. But even then, because I love John Woo so much, and coming from Asian, Hong Kong, Japanese cinema and everything, I always knew I wanted to try bringing in sort of like the melodrama of those Asian movies in the 80s, and stuff, but kind of balance it a bit for the Western audience. But I didn't want to go. So there was a scene where it was very much a lot of that sentimentality and melodrama of Asian cinema, and I didn't know if it would work or not, and probably wouldn't work as much, for America in the year 2000. But I wanted to try it, and there was 3 or 4 scenes that came after that were sort of like that, and that was when we lost the test audience. They loved the action. They but then it was like, they found they were, it was too, moments were corny and everything. And I remember sitting in the test screen and go, okay, great. And I was with, a good friend of mine who was my assistant at the time. And And I was like, I remember like, all right, okay, so clearly this doesn't work.
So you can take it away from that screen. You can think to yourself, okay, we can go away and change this. We can.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, all right, so I just need to get rid of this, this, and this. You know? And but there was a lot of like other politics that I didn't factor.
Yeah.
And everything too, and the movie was just taken away from me. Like, I didn't have a chance to do anything, and it was just, and literally was that. And again, it's the biggest reason is how naive I was in literally just thinking that a test screening was where you tested whatever you wanted. Like, I didn't realize like there was a score you had to try to get.
Yeah. And
if you get past this score, then you're good. But again, it's not something that's taught to you. Like, unless you experience it, like there's no way of knowing, and I had a lot of people who were really big directors who I had become friends with and who were very helpful. Like, I could always go talk to them and they help a lot. But I never thought to ask them about test screenings.
Yeah.
I just always assumed a test screening, because even in your contract, it's like, I can have 2 test screenings. You do it once and then you test it again, and stuff. But I didn't. So after the first test screening, and I was coming in with all the changes and the fixes that I was going to do, and they didn't fire me, but they changed everything. And because they changed everything, I felt my crew had done nothing wrong and everything. And so I just walked away from the movie. And I was going to remove my name, but my agents convinced me, like, it's just better to just move on. Don't worry about it, and just keep going.
Yeah.
And I did, but it hurt. It hurt a lot. And it went through a period where I was just saying no to every offer I got, and I had a few offers for like 2 years after that, but I just couldn't. It was just too painful, I didn't want to go through it again, and that's when I turned to commercials. I was just mainly doing commercials.
Yeah, there's a deep connection, isn't there, between a director and their film, and it becomes like, for a year or however long you're shooting and doing even through pre-production, becomes your baby in a way, doesn't it? And so whenever someone kind of takes it away from you and changes it. And obviously you carry, as you say, you didn't feel like the crew done anything wrong or anything like that. But you carry that with you. They're coming down on us, but you guys didn't do anything wrong. You kind of, I suppose, maybe if you had been around for a few more years or something, do you think maybe the studio wouldn't have treated you that way? Maybe you would have got another bit more time, or why do you think they were so quick to kind of snatch it away?
It wasn't necessarily Warner Brothers, because the 2 executives on it, Dan Lin and Kevin McCormick, who was the senior and the junior, were really good guys, and I had a really good relationship with them. I really did, and but it was more franchise pictures.
Okay.
And 2 people in particular who just, one specific person who I was arguing with from before we even started shooting in pre-production. Yeah. So he always didn't like me, because I would call him out on his bullshit and everything, literally sitting in a meeting and, they're trying to save money, and they're like, we can save money by like sending me, Antonio, and Lucy, down the border into Mexico and to do like all the ADR recording and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and but literally
cutting corners.
That was a comment, and in the end, if you look at franchise pictures, they'd done a lot of movies, but up to that point, we were their only movie that finished on time and under budget.
Wow.
So there was no real reason, for me not to have been given a chance. But yeah, I mean, back then when it was happening, I took it very personal, and I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I really should have listened to my agents. I just said, they just do the next one and nobody will remember, just do the next one. And there's so many great directors that have done that and overcome that.
Yeah.
A classic example, that people don't even realize, I guess, is like, Antoine Fuqua today. like he's done some really great movies, but he also did Bait. After his first movie, he did Bait with Jamie Foxx, and that nearly sank him, but then, right after that, he just kept going, and he was able to do Training Day, and then just, built on that, and stuff. And that's how I should have looked at it, but it was just so personal to me.
It's hard. It's hard not to take it personal, as I say, you grow with you get a connection to this crew that you're working with, this film that you're working with. And it's like, making a film is almost like solving a puzzle. When you've got a lot of the pieces in the right place, and then someone comes along and just slaps that jigsaw out of your hands, you're kind of like, oh, and then, rather than, try and pick up the pieces, sometimes it is better just to walk away from it completely.
The thing that kills me the most, it's not even like, like the freaking, and they do like every 5 years, like the thing on Rotten Tomatoes, and, the zero, one of the movies that got zero, whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing that gets me the most is that everyone seems to think a franchise, and again, this is not hearsay, like you can look it up, they were sued because they were lying on their budgets, and I guess, doubling it, they were, they got into a lot of trouble, legal trouble. But, so they were telling everyone that Ballistic was a $72 million movie, and the surprising thing is, like, no one ever questioned that. They were questioning it with on like Get Carter being $80 million movie, and stuff, but everyone like was bashing Ballistic, but no one ever said like 72 million, whatever. And in reality, we had 34 million, 17 million of it, just under 17 million of it was what we had to make the movie. And then the other was all above the line bullshit. But like, it was not a 72. It was, I have the budget. I worked on the budget with, I have the budget, like it was a $34 million movie,
So there's two films in a row then that have just kind of like completely like lied about whatever budget they kind of gave you and stuff.
Yeah. But the first one, you couldn't kind of understand, but the second one, it was like, they just had different books. They were just selling it for 72, like it was bad. But man, and the funny thing is, like, what is it? It's been 20 years. And, with YouTube today, your podcast and other people, I watch pretty much, I don't watch local cable or TV. I just watch YouTube or Netflix, Amazon, whatever.
Same here.
And I watch a lot of different, like fan stuff. And one guy I've been watching for a couple of years now is I'm sure you guys know him, Chris Stuckman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And literally, like, I think it was like 5 weeks ago on his, on one of his videos, he does a video, like, bashing Ballistic. And I'm like, that's a 20-year-old movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
Even though it was my movie, and like, even though like it was like, but I thought it was fun because I agree with everything, like it's a bad movie, like there's no question, but I do have to say, like, I've seen a lot worse too.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm not happy with the movie and it's bad, but it's like, it's not that bad, like it's bad, but it don't, I don't know, like, I don't know.
There's definitely a lot worse out there. I mean, if you could pick out, like, the action sequences and stuff like that, and from Ballistic, and there's exciting big explosions. There's stuff in there to look at, and then there's just other films that I feel like you can get away with a lot more with an action film, because a lot of people go to that watch an action film maybe not for the story or the script. Yeah. They go there for explosions, action, slow-mo, stuff like that. But when you get a bad film that is horrible, but it's like a period drama or something like that, and it's just people talking in a room, and that just completely unexciting. But obviously, all that kind of stuff, the downfall of the film would have stung a little bit. But would you say that your whole experience of it all, and your first kind of, I guess, Hollywood kind of experience with big studio experience, would you say that you're grateful for? Because you have to look back on these things with, as a learning experience, I suppose. Yes, you're grateful that all these kind of things happened at the start, at least, and so you knew how to continue.
100%. What it did was, by the time I was doing Ballistic, I was still only 27.
Very young,
so it came early, and it was, it's been 20 years now, and it taught me a lot. you know, and it absolutely, it really did two things. And it sounds so big and everything, but it is really true. And, you know, I know exactly how I did and stuff, but it made me a better filmmaker and it made me a better person.
Mm.
You know, like when you're forced to eat humble pie out there in the world on the, you know, and that was, you know, like the internet wasn't as big, but it was still around, you know, like it was still around. There weren't as many trolls or anything that's them, but you know, it was like, it was, you know, cause I was things happen fast, you know, when things happen fast and you're making a lot of money, you're doing what you want, you know, and stuff. It's, I mean, like when you suffer a crushing blow like that, and then like, you know, the humility and then coming through it, I really think it's made me a better person, especially professionally. You know, like I appreciate everything more, you know, and I know I'm smarter now. I know how to pick my projects, learn, you know, and for the most part, you know, when you've had a 20-something year career, you're going to run into more bad shit than once or twice. It's going to happen a few times. There are going to be things that you don't spot or whatever, you know, but it's rare now. And today I'm in a place where I'm very comfortable with myself, with my career. You know, I'm very comfortable doing what I'm doing with the people I'm doing, you know, and so I mean, like, and without that experience, you know, I wouldn't have today. So, you know, I have no regrets, and it's I'm extremely grateful. You know, I mean, you know, I and who knows, you know, a career is very long.
Yeah,
and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
I think, you know, Clint Eastwood's directing a film still, and he's like 107 years old. So, you know, there's a long time for things to happen. You mentioned there that obviously, you know, with the outcome of all this is that, you know, you've changed certain ways you work and how you pick your crew and how you pick your films and stuff like that. I noticed there's something with your later work and stuff. You seem to take on a lot more roles within the film. So there's films where you're like a writer, you're the director, you're the producer, you're the cinematographer. Maybe you'll cam up a little bit as well and stuff like that. Is that something that you always wanted to do? Did you always want to have like a lot of like roles within a film, or is that something that maybe these past experiences taught you? Maybe I'll just take it in my own hands rather than kind of.
He won't remember this. He probably won't remember this, but the biggest reason why there's two reasons, but the biggest reason why I'm doing everything that I'm doing now is Antonio and Banderas introduced me to Robert Rodriguez.
Wow.
And I met with Robert many times at Antonio's house. You know, he was bringing over a lot of the scenes, and you know, I got to see, you know, it. He was starting to shoot digital at the time, once upon a time in Mexico. And through my conversations, just being with him and just listening to him, you know, he edits and he composes. I think he does his own catering now. You know, like he was like his own visual, like he was literally you know. So Robert kind of showed me it was possible.
Yeah.
Like I was hesitant to do it because I'm like, okay, I'm in Hollywood now. I'm directing. You know, they have cam offs, they have all this stuff, and even when I was working there, many times I wanted to do it, you know, because I'd always done it. And then I did it for my first movie here in Thailand too. You know, I was operating. But then I was just sort of reluctant because I was like, all right, you know, like that's not the director's job.
Yeah.
You know, but then I meet Robert, and like I said, like he's doing everything you know, like everything. Like, you know, I think like art directing, I mean, he was doing everything. And then when I came back to Thailand, like I said, smaller place, everything, and not really anyone to tell me like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I just did it. You know, I did it, and because I'm in Thailand, it's not like I like writing. I don't like writing, but all the scripts that I would have access to, I'm not getting the studio scripts. You know, I'm getting, you know, and they weren't very good or whatever. And it was hard. So I just, you know, I wrote my own stuff, and then, you know, I went out and found my own financing, you know, whatever. And then, you know, today now I've been fortunate where, you know, a lot of the last 3 or 4 movies I've done, Lionsgate, Grindstone, you know, they buy it. So there's distribution, there's and it's a system that I sort of fell into, and it's working for me. So, we're developing a movie now, and it's getting closer to being done. And ironically, we're talking about this, but the writer and the producer is Peter Lenkov, who was a studio writer on Ballistic. Like Warner Brothers, put him on, to rewrite the script. And I hated the studio note that they had to do, but I really like Peter. And Peter and I, have remained friends throughout, this long 20 years and stuff. And then, and everything I was doing last year around September, he saw One Night in Bangkok and he really liked it, and he called me up and, we said hi again, we'd kept in touch, but not so often, but we, once a year or whatever, would say hi, whatever. And then he's like, I love your movie, man. And it's like, I just finished the script, would you read it? And I read it. And, it's the best script I've read like in 10 years since I've been here, and he's like, yeah, I want you to do it. So, and like I said, it's a career is a long time.
Yeah.
Was it him that had added the like the nanotech stuff to Ballistic then?
He had to do it, but it wasn't his idea.
Okay.
It was studio note, and
because I know that was one of the things you were really not a very big fan of.
That's why I said I hated the note, but I liked and again this says a lot about the whole thing and my experience and I guess me in a way, because I hated the note. But the writer that was picked by the studio, I didn't pick him. The studio picked him. We got on well. Like I didn't take it out on him. I understood that this was his job. He's not coming in here to be like the nanotech is the greatest idea. Because he, at the time he was, he'd done some stuff. He was, but he was up and coming as well, and he was taking on a job. And that's the biggest thing. Like people, when I talk to the younger people who want to be in the industry, whatever, and they always ask me for advice or whatever. My biggest thing is a career and a passion are two very different things. If you want to do this as a career, you're not going to be able to pick all the jobs. Pick everything that you want to do. This is just reality of it. Some people get to, the elite few get to do what they want and get paid very well. But for most of us, if you want a career, you're going to have to do stuff you don't want to do at times, because if you don't eat. Like a passion is a passion. A passion is great. A passion is you grab your friend who's free and you go do whatever you want. And then, and it could take you 4 years, but, you stick, that's passion.
Yeah.
And a lot of people mistake that. A lot of people think that, no, I love films. I have a DSLR, I've got the, iPhone 12 Max Pro. I can shoot images, like I can make a fucking movie, and you can. It's much easier today to make a fucking movie, but it's not easy, professionally as a career, it's not easy. And that's one thing I guess, like I'm super proud of. It's like, 20 something years, and I can still do what I love.
Yeah.
It's not easy, which is not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it comes back to the whole, some of the praise, all of the blame sort of thing, where people don't really understand what happens in the background of these things. And you can't just peg everything on one person's job or whatever. You don't know what happens behind the scenes. And even if you see what happens behind the scenes, you don't fully understand it at the same time.
We just wondered about casting for Ballistic, because obviously you ended up with Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu, but I've read a load of different names about people that were considered. I mean, is there any particularly interesting stories there? Because, Sylvester Stallone, I've seen, Vin Diesel.
I always go back to the first one. When I read the script, it had to be, like, to me, like I almost didn't want to make it when I couldn't get them, was Chow Yun-fat and Jean Reno.
From Leon.
Yes.
Yeah, like that was to me, like when I read the script, I was like, the killer and the professional. There's no one else.
Yeah.
Like this is, like this would be, and Alan had written a script that was very, very much in that vein. Like we talked about it earlier, where it wasn't nanotechnology. There was no, like, it was all family. There was no there was no ticking clock
Mm.
in the sense of like, there was no other motivation. There was like, there was no world to save,
Yeah.
you know, like in that sense. And, you know, ticking clocks come in many forms, but, you know, like in these, you know, that you always have to save someone, or say, you know, and this was just like, you know, one, and it was very, very, very hard R, you know, like really hard R, because the kid, the son, you know, Alan had put him in a glass box that was hanging off a roof in a warehouse, and he was sitting, and on the glass box was like a scale weighted down, and it was sitting on like, you know, 10 kilos of C4, which I thought, like, literally, I read that and I was like, that's the poster of the movie. That's how dumb I was. You know? that's
Wow.
the poster of the movie. This 8-year-old boy sitting in the cage, you know.
Very extreme.
But that was the first note. That was the first studio note. You know, it was like, you can't put a kid in a glass cage and, you know, sitting on C4. And I was like, what do you mean you can't? That's, you know.
Isn't this Hollywood?
So yeah, so I mean, so yeah, and but again, you know, we're talking about casting. It was like he didn't have the same value for franchise pictures, not necessarily Warner Brothers, because, you know, with franchise pictures, then it was like they had to pre-sell the movie. That's how they got their money, you know, around the world and stuff. And while Jean Reno and Chow Yun-fat are loved around the world and you know have value for a lot of action movie fans, financially it didn't make sense for them. It didn't add up to like the $30-something million we would need to make this. So they nixed it. And then the second set was and I never even got to meet Chow Yun-fat and Jean Reno. It was just a flat no.
Yeah.
You know, and then Ili Samaha, who owned Franchise Pictures at the time, he was doing a bunch of movies with Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
And at the time they were doing, I think it was Driven, if I recall correctly. Get Carter or Driven, I don't remember, but one of them. And so he was like, well, you know, well, what about Sly? And I was like, you know, what about, you know, like, so, yeah. So,
What'd you say to that? Yeah.
And, so I had a breakfast meeting with Mr. Stallone, and
Wow.
and it was great. It was awesome, and it was the only time, if to use an analogy, or, you know, where I sort of broke the fourth wall in any professional meeting, where like midway through the breakfast, as we're talking and everything was going well, I just had to like, I'm really sorry, can I just stop for a second? You're like, what? Like, and I literally just said, I can't fucking believe I'm sitting here. You know, Rambo and Rocky, you know, and he just laughed his famous laughs, you know, like he did really well, you know, stuff. And, you know, I mean, unfortunately, it was before cell phone cameras.
Yeah.
Like that, like, you know, I would have 1 million followers on my Instagram just from that.
Yeah.
You know? But, you know, I'm kidding. I don't really care about all that. But it was so great, you know. And so he you know, we had a really good meeting, and he signed on. He, you know, verbally, you know, he was like, I'm in. He's like, great,
Wow.
you know. And then I think I made a faux pas, because it was like, I had never met a star at a breakfast meeting, but because it was Stallone, he was in town. He was in the, so I went to see him. I'd usually met all the other stars I met was in offices, you know, like production offices, you know, like their office, you know, our office, wherever. And this was a first meal. We get to the end, and I think technically, because he was meeting me, like, you know, because the production company would pay for it, but I didn't know. Like, I was supposed to pay for the breakfast, right? So then the bill came, and I'm just still like, you know, when I'm talking, I'm not even paying attention, you know, and I didn't realize the waiter had brought the bill. So there was like literally like almost a minute wait where I'm completely oblivious to it, and then Stallone just like looks at it, takes it, and then just pays for it. And then when I grabbed the bill, that's when it occurred to me, like, oh shit, did I just fuck this up? Like,
I just made Sly Stallone buy me lunch.
you know, like, and then I came back, you know, and I told like Chris and, you know, Chris Lee and the other producers. I'm like, shit, you know, because they're like, did you bring the receipt? I'm like, no, he paid for it. I'm like, what do you mean he paid for it? I'm like, I didn't fucking know. No one told me like he paid for it. Like, how do you let him pay? I'm like, he can afford it. You expect me like to be like, I just, I didn't know, I didn't understand the etiquette or whatever, and but it's a great memory. And Stallone was in, and the next person I went to meet, to pair up with Stallone was Vin Diesel.
Wow.
And it was going to be Stallone and Vin Diesel.
Male.
Who's playing who then?
Stallone was Ecks. Diesel was Sever.
Right. Yeah. Let's do that.
And surprisingly, Vin was really into the idea. This was right off of Pitch Black. He had just done Pitch Black, and we met, and I actually met Vin Diesel 2 or 3 times. And the first time we had drinks at a hotel down in Beverly Hills, and I remember it was a really fun meeting. Like he's just super smart, and we talked about all these different movies. He had seen everything. He was very up to and we both smoked at the time, and I remember we both we smoked a whole pack. Had to find more cigarettes, and everything. I mean, it was a really cool meeting. And then he had agreed to do it too. And at that time I was super stoked. I was like, fucking Rambo, and then like Vin Diesel was so cool in Pitch Black, and it was just sort of like the older guy, younger guy. It was perfect. Like this was I think it was a little bit before the Fast series had come out, and stuff, and Vin was looking. And then I think Stallone got into an argument with Ely Samaha over at Franchise Pictures. So he dropped out.
Franchise Pictures again.
Yeah. So he dropped out. And then when he dropped out, I was still thinking, okay, I liked Vin a lot. I thought like he'd still make like an incredible Sever and everything. But then it was like when it was Franchise's call, they were like, Vin Diesel worked really well with Stallone, but without Stallone, they didn't want Vin Diesel. It's upward looking, so I mean, like, it went on forever. I mean, I met with so many people for that role. Wesley Snipes, Kevin Bacon. I mean, like, it was a gamut of people, Thomas Jane. I met with everyone, and they're all really cool. And ended up with Antonio, and met him at his house. Very quick meeting, very short. It went really well. And when we were talking, he asked like who we had in mind for Sever. And at that point, I'd met so many people already. Like, and we're just discussing, some different things, and I was talking about the idea of like, like going through all this and again, going back to Hong Kong movies, Asian movies and everything. And I forget her name, Maggie Song, but she'd done a lot of she was in The Mood for Love, and she'd done a lot of Jackie Chan movies, and stuff. And then I knew, so I was thinking, toying around with the idea of like, what if we just made Sever like her, and then Chris suggested someone like Michelle Yeoh, who he knew and stuff, who I loved too, and stuff. So we hadn't gone to them yet, and we hadn't officially changed Sever to female. But and then I was telling Antonio that, and he's like, why not Lucy Liu? Because he'd just done a movie with Lucy. And ironically, when he brought up Lucy's agent was Robert Newman, who was my agent at the time too.
Oh, of course.
So then it all made sense, and then that's how it happened. And then Robert connected me to Lucy, and then I met Lucy, who both of them, Antonio and Lucy, were really great, really terrific. And aside from Lucy doing the movie, the biggest thing, one of the greatest things she ever did for me was she introduced me to Quentin Tarantino. So I got to spend a lot of time with him through her, because she had just done Kill Bill.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So they were friends and stuff.
What's he like then?
He's everything that you expect him to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not false. If anything, he's even more larger than life.
Yeah.
Right. Like the first time I met him, the very first time, because Lucy, had told me, he asked me like, like, do you want to meet Quentin Tarantino? I was like, yes, does the sun shine? And apparently, and so she was like, yeah, she was having a party at her house, and Quentin Tarantino was going to be there. She invited me, so like I went, and because I'm really not really like a sociable type of person. I don't like going to parties or whatever, but This was Lucy's party, and Quentin Tarantino was going to be there. So like, I went, help her set up, the fucking table and everything. But no, I walk in, and this is a true story. And Lucy was in the kitchen, so I was walking into the kitchen to go see her. And across, there were a lot of people there already, but across the room, like I hear my name being yelled out, and I'm like, I don't know anybody here. Like Lucy's the only person I know is Lucy Louie. She's in the kitchen, and I'm walking to her, and it was Quentin Tarantino, and he was he yelled out my name, and like I turn around and he, like almost runs over. He's that full of energy, and I'm nobody. I'm absolutely nobody, right? Like this is Quentin Tarantino, many, many years past Pulp Fiction and many other movies already, And he was just so genuinely excited, like just, and an Asian filmmaker, like Lucy, and he was terrific. He legitimately was super, like I couldn't have imagined it, like I've seen a lot of his interviews, and he's always like, rambunctious and loud and, but he really liked that, and it was great. It was really, really great. And he invited me to his house to a private screening, and I went, obviously, and all of the Charlie Angels were all there, and it was, he was holding the screening for Drew Barrymore, and it was and like if you Quentin Tarantino lives on the hills, at the top of the hill. You go to his house, there's a separate place where it's just his screening room, right? And it's a private screening, right? So there's less than 10 people there. The massive theater, but you walk in and there's like an usher, and there's like a concession stand, and there's a person behind the concession stand. And they're like, so it's like you can order your popcorn and stuff, but everything's free. Like it was
crazy.
And then you go in, and then you take your seat, and then Quentin, and again, these are just his friends, plus me, like people he's known a long time, and plus me, again, I'm like the new guy. No one else there, no cameras, right? There's no audience aside from us. But he literally spends a good hour talking before the movie. How he going over how like, okay, he's found 40 minutes of trailers, right? He doesn't tell us what it is. He gives us the backstory. You're gonna love it. And he's talking to Drew specifically, and it's like, and you're just, it's better than watching the movie was watching Quentin. Like it was like, wow, like just what, and then the whole trailers they around, and it was he had gone and found Drew Barrymore's father's trailers, some of which Drew had never even seen, and he was like showing that before the movie. And then the movie itself, I don't remember why he picked this movie, but it was a movie I'd loved and I'd never seen on a big screen. So I was really thankful, was Thunderfoot and Lightning. Clint Eastwood, Jeff Bridges. I think it's called Thunder. Yeah. I mean, it's Clint Eastwood and Jeff Bridges, I believe. Well, yeah.
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Yeah, is that it? Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1974.
Yeah, Michael Cimino is the director.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Which is a great movie. And again, because of the time it came out, I've seen it on VHS a couple of times, but I'd never seen it on the big screen. And here it was like projected. I think it's either, super, I don't know. It was really wide cinema, like the way it was meant to be shown.
Yeah.
But that's Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to him and meet him, many other times. And again, all these people, super friendly, super helpful. Like you could call and ask them questions, and it wasn't, they're all really great. And I've tried to carry that with me, I guess I'm sure there are assholes out there, but I was fortunate where like the people I got to deal with, most of the time weren't like that. And so like today when people ask me for something, when I'm always happy to do it, cause it's like, you see Tarantino do that. I've seen, Roland Emmerich has done that with me. Tony Scott's done that with me. And then it's like, yeah, like, and they're way better. So it's like if someone wants to, ask me, like, happy to help.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do what I can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the attitude that we all kind of need to have in an industry like this, isn't it? Because it's watching something like Quentin Tarantino sit up and speak for an hour before the film starts. As you said, it was like almost better than the film itself. It's like awe-inspiring, this kind of stuff, isn't it? And you always have to be able to turn around and lend a helping hand to the people kind of behind you and coming up and whatever. So
for
it's
7 people, mind you. He did this for 7 people in the audience.
I love that. I just love the idea of him just talking for an hour. Like, you've been out for like 4 bunches of popcorn, which is funny.
It's like it was mesmerizing, like it was just like, wow, people. I was like, people would pay for this,
Yeah,
like you should do this.
Yeah.
Motivational speaking, yeah.
And he's got a projectionist, like at his house. And I asked him, I was like, is he full time?
Yeah.
Like, you have a projectionist just standing, and he's like, whenever I watch a movie. And I'm like, how often is that? Like, often.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Can you imagine if Quentin Tarantino wouldn't be the kind of guy to, like, at midnight put on a DVD or something? He just phone up. He'd be like, Bob, I need you to come around my place now because I want to watch
What are you talking about? Bob's bedroom is probably at the back of the theater.
Yeah,
Built the bedroom, like
it's a little studio. Yeah, how do you even end up there? You found him.
I would grow up to be Quentin Tarantino's personal projectionist. It's not a very rare career path, isn't it?
It is definitely that. I mean, it's almost 20 years ago, and I still remember it.
I wonder if it's still the same guy.
I'm willing to bet Tarantino's projection is still film and not digital.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But and on that note, for me, I don't understand the pushback against digital.
Yeah,
I really don't. I think digital is fantastic. I think it really is. I mean, if anything, digital is so important in the development of the new generation of filmmakers. I mean, yeah, I don't understand the pushback again.
Yeah.
It must be so much easier with smaller budget things.
So much easier, and you travel way lighter. You waste very little time. Like on films, like, the film, people forget it scratches, it tears, it's such a delicate thing, too cold, it's fucked, too hot, it's fucked, it's a very, like, I love digital. And for anyone that want to, I'm like, you see anything David Fincher does, and you tell me that the quality, is lesser than film, it's like, I call BS.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are so many gorgeous movies. Roger Deakins. He shoots digital. And you're gonna say, like, what his work is. I mean, come on.
There's not much of a better argument than that, really, is there? Like, come on. Yeah.
If Roger Deakins is shooting film and he's getting, I don't understand it.
I guess it can be like part of the argument of, like, older generations talking about how you don't know how easy you have it, rather than just, like, trying to adapt to the new way of things. Because obviously with film, you can't get playback or anything like that. So if something's crept in the bottom of the frame, you're not going to know until you start cutting stuff.
Have you seen Roger Deakins? He's not young.
I know. Yeah. True. True. Some people are just stuck in their ways, though, aren't they? And some people are just stuck in their ways, and they just want things. They just keep talking about the better days. But obviously, he's somebody who's willing to adapt and just keep creating beautiful work no matter what is out there.
There's a reason why all around the world, in most countries, almost every corner of the world now, when you go outside, it's not a horse-drawn buggy.
Yeah.
It's a car. It's electric cars now. They've gone even further. Like it's electric cars now. Like technology can be good. Digital technology is good. It really is, because I'm not nowhere near like a Deacon's level or anything, but I've been a cinematographer for a good part of 10 years, and I can't think of a single reason why I'd shoot film over digital. I can't, because you can emulate the film look on digital. Plus, everywhere unless you go to Quentin Tarantino's house, every theater you go to is going to be digital projection.
Yeah, you do not want to turn up to Quentin's house with an SD card. You'll just spit in your face and throw it away.
But all the theaters today, all the big chains, they're all digital.
Yeah.
No one's projecting film.
No.
So like you shoot film is gonna be converted into 0 and 1s anyways.
Yeah, I think don't a lot of people shoot with both as well these days. I feel like sometimes people shoot.
I really believe like film is. People who hold on to film, people want to shoot film. It's an ego thing. It's that it's like I have a Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
you have a Lamborghini. I have a Rolls Royce. That's my belief. Like it's just that mentality. Because it's costs more money. It's definitely going to cost you more money if you shoot film.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's like that. It's like, Rolls Royce is always going to be more expensive than whatever car it's parked next to. Doesn't mean that it's better, but it's, but anyways.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument within that. Yeah, that it is an ego thing. There's like an image thing that's kind of like I shot mine on 35mm actually. So, but yeah, there's a bit of a weird pushback. What were you going to say, Matt, just before?
Just say, am I right to think that Christopher Nolan's one of those that still sticks with film?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he strikes me as that kind of person that has that bit of an ego to it.
If you can, and he's earned it. There are certain filmmakers I feel have earned to do whatever the hell they want to do.
Well, yeah.
And some people bash Christopher Nolan, some people bash, like M. Night, but I think M. Night's another filmmaker, like he can do whatever the fuck he wants, like he made the Sixth Sense, like he'll do it. I'll watch it. I may not like it, but I'm not going to feel like I gotta go kill somebody. Like that's the problem today. Like it's like you watch a movie, and it's like, oh my god, Tenet was so bad, and then like all this hate on Chris Nolan, and it's like he just made a movie, dude. Like you don't like the movie, like.
Right. What did you think of Tenet then? I guess we have to ask. What did you think of Tenet? Because it's tearing people apart.
In all honesty, I haven't. I loved Chris Nolan's work forever. Like like Memento, I thought was like so unique, and then like, I love Batman. Right, Batman. I was able to pitch for Batman. With Jeff Robinoff. Back in the day before all of this, I didn't get it. But my pitch was very close to what they were doing, because my whole pitch was off of Batman Year One. Like I love Batman, and I grew up. I mean, that's the one, above and beyond like all the Japanese manga and stuff that I hold dear to my heart, like Cobra, Touch, all this. And I thought, when I watched Batman Begins the first time, it was a damn near religious experience. And Dark Knight is the better filmmaking. The Dark Knight was just like supreme filmmaking, like that was about, but I still like Batman Begins more. Yeah. Because it was the first one. It was the one where like, as a comic book person who was like, Spider-Man 2, I thought was, before Batman Begins, it was Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, but what that Sam Raimi did. Spider-Man I thought was fun, but it wasn't, but Batman Begins, like even the Michael Keaton Batmans were cool, but it was cool because of my age and just seeing Batman on screen. But I felt like, the action was like, what? You just, that's not Batman, it was just still very clunky. You know what I mean? Like Keaton was a great Bruce Wayne, but the Batman itself wasn't that great. It was great to see, but it wasn't, but Batman Begins, like he treated Batman like a horror movie when the first time Batman shows up. And that's how, Frank Miller had always written it. The fear that, and I thought like I said, Batman Begins was a religious experience for me. Right. So I because of that, like I said, Chris Nolan has earned it with me, and from Batman Begins, the other one that just blew me away was Inception.
Yeah.
Right. Like Inception was like, there's a few movies that I've seen many times in the theaters, like back to back to back to back. I can count them on one hand. A Few Good Men, Last of the Mohicans, right? Heat.
Yeah, nice.
Inception, and the latest one, believe it or not, was Wind River for me.
Nice.
I don't know, but
yes, I do know Wind River. Jeremy Renner's in it, and like John Berthel.
That movie. Yeah, I love that. But anyway, so those few that literally, if like walk out of the theater, walk back in. Kind of thing, Yeah. So Inception was, but I actually, for me, it was like after Inception, I haven't really liked a Christopher Nolan movie.
No. Yeah.
They've all had good moments. Like Interstellar had some really good moments, but as an overall journey, beginning to end, it didn't quite work for me.
Yeah.
And then I Dark Knight Rises, I just absolutely hated.
Really?
Like it was. I mean, I love all the actors: Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hardy. I love the cast, but that wasn't Bane for me. And again, this is like maybe because I love the source material too much. I know too much. It's one of those cases. So it was like when Bane shows up, I'm like, that's not really Bane. Batwoman shows up. It just, great actors in them, but it just, it wasn't the first two movies. It just wasn't, and even the tightness of the script and everything to me was like, wait, you're in Gotham, there's a bomb, but you go to, where are you? India? Like, yeah, are we in India or are we in Nepal? Like, we're not in Gotham. Like, where did you go to drop off Batman? And then it was just weird, it was just, and then, but beginning with that's what I've always, his movies then had all these leaps of faith, if you will, in all of them, Interstellar, and everything, and culminating in Tenet. The thing that I say about Tenet is I wish the first 10 minutes was the movie.
Yeah.
I wish that was the movie. That first 10, that opening sequence was so mind-blowing good. This fucking badass, special ops team. You don't know who they are. They've got, they're holy shit. And then I didn't understand the rest. I kind of understand it.
Yeah.
I think I do. But here's my question, if you're asking me this. And because I went with my friends, and no one can answer this. The whole oxygen mask that they have to wear?
Yeah.
When they go to kill, spoiler alert, everybody. When they go when they go to kill Kenneth Branagh on the boat.
Yeah.
Right. Why aren't they wearing oxygen masks?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's a lot of ways.
We had a similar reaction to it, I think, really, didn't we? Because especially it was the first film we've been to see pretty much all year, because I don't know what COVID has been like in Thailand, but we had the whole lockdown at the start of the year, and then it opened up a bit, and we could, the cinemas opened again, and Tenet finally came out, and obviously it's locked down again since. We've been back inside again for the past few months, but we finally got to go to the cinema to see Tenet, and it just was disappointing, really, in the end, and just left us confused, really, at the end of it.
Because
confused and angry.
Because I don't because they were definitely, they had traveled through time, but I didn't understand was it backwards or I don't but they clearly weren't wearing oxygen masks, but they had traveled through time, so aren't they supposed to wear?
Yeah, I forget the specifics of it, to be honest.
but that confused me. That really confused me. Like, I'm like, you killed him, but then, but like, yeah. So, and I guess I had to spend most of the movie thinking about things like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just being able to enjoy it.
And being in the film and feeling it and stuff like that.
Like Inception was complex, but the way he told the story, you were like, okay, I'm following this. Okay, I get it. I get the layers. I get the time difference. I get that, level 1 is this and you're level 2 and it's, 6 years, level 3, I get that.
Yeah.
And it was so cool and the visuals are great, stuff. And then like Tenet, I didn't think the visuals were, I don't know. I just didn't feel like, they were like, the trailer was so cool. But then when you watch the movie, it was like,
that was the best parts already, wasn't it? Really, that they kind of plucked out and put in the trailer, so it kind of made it like when you seen it on the big screen, it was amazing, but it was like, it was supposed to save cinema, but really all they done was shoot some stuff and then put it in reverse, So I don't know, wasn't crazy.
And then I watched the behind the scene. They're going on about like, he's we're doing everything in camera. I'm like, what are you talking about? You did everything in camera. Like you can't reverse that shit. Like what? Like now I'm even more confused. I'm like,
Christopher Nolan's like, I built a time machine to go back. I thought that this film deserved a genuine time machine. Yeah,
and but whatever he does next, I'm gonna go see.
Yeah, that's it.
These are the filmmakers. Like whatever, love it, right? Like, and it's okay. It's okay. And I like that they're trying, right? I like because then if you don't, you have people outside, like the studio world and stuff. You have people who are making movies, and it's all the same movies, all the same movies, and stuff. And so I really respect and admire these guys that they're able to and they choose to. I mean. I say it is now, irony of ironies, but someone like Christopher Nolan could jump into a superhero movie anytime, but he chooses not to, he chooses, and I have to respect that. And I'd love to be able to do what I want the way he does, every filmmaker would, and I know it's really hard. And like I said, the most important thing is he's earned it. There are certain filmmakers you cannot argue. They've earned it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like first time out, he gave us Memento. That was a very risky movie, and it succeeded. Like Tarantino with Pulp Fiction. It changed everything, and they succeeded. So if these guys are gonna try shit, I'm gonna support it. I want them to keep trying stuff. And I'm hoping that they'll be able to recapture whatever. There are a lot of filmmakers out there that are very successful, where like it's just so bland and boring, and you're like, what? Why am I watching this person's movie? Because it's no different. Everything's the same, everything is just like, why are we, but they're super successful and they're making movies.
I guess what you're saying is you'd rather see a swing and a miss than no swing at all, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's a really weird analogy from people in England.
yeah, I know. I don't know why. I love baseball. Yeah.
No, really?
No, not really. I watched the Super Bowl the other day, and I had to kind of have my phone open at the same time to understand any of the rules that were going on. And trying, right, 1st and 10. So that means that he needs. I'm doing all this math in my head, and I think it was good. I think I enjoyed it.
No, that's pretty funny. But what do you think? Do you guys feel the same way about Tenet?
Kind of, yeah. I guess. As Matt said, it was the first film we've seen in cinema for so long, so we were very excited about it. It was being hailed as this thing that was going to bring back cinema and save cinema and stuff like that. Like it was ever in danger or anything, but
exactly.
No, I don't. It was one of those things where I didn't actually feel much or anything for any of the characters. Like I thought Robert Pattinson was cool, but he's just a cool kind of guy. So we put him in a suit, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, he's pretty dapper, isn't he?"
Yeah.
John David Washington was good too, but I didn't really connect with any of the characters or really care about what happened with them. And then the action sequences were great. You know, the plane crash and stuff like that was pretty amazing. But it was kind of all lasers sort of
but
for me.
I have another question about this that no one could answer too. So this was my second question when we came out right as we came out of the theater. And remember, I went to see this with people who'd been making movies for at least 15 years. Like all good friends of mine who we worked together, and whatever, and we're all film people. I came out and my second question was that sequence you see where they slingshot up the building to meet the Indian woman who like never leaves, right? Because they do the bait and switch where you think it's the guy, but it's really the girl. But they lay it out beforehand where like no one knows who this person is. They never leave their tower and all this shit, right? Like this. Right after that scene, like she's basically traveling the world out in the open.
Yeah.
Like every other time you see her, she's out somewhere, and you're like, wait, why? I need to know why, because you made me sit through a 10-minute sequence where you're explaining how difficult it is to get in here and why, because like no one knows, and then like Washington gets to go sit next to her and talk to her, and then right after that, like it's literally like, hey, meet me at the corner store, every fucking time. It's like I need someone to explain to me like why.
Yeah, I'd not noticed that.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Another question you're asking yourself while you're watching the film instead of being able to sit back and enjoy it.
No, literally that's what I mean. Because the first time that she comes out to meet him, I'm like, wait a minute, like why is she here? Like this was like the hardest person to meet in the whole world. At like, and she does it.
Yeah, she should have had like a whole new world sequence where she goes out to the street for the first time and she sees all these signs. She's like, wow, it's so amazing.
But you know what I mean? They made it like, she's, and even in her own tower, she's making people think that it's her husband and not her, and all this, like, it's all this secrecy, and it's like,
yeah.
And then you talk to Washington and like, all right, okay, I guess, someone's found me, I guess, I'm on Facebook now. And like, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that at all. I was so confused. I was like,
yeah, it's a fair point.
Do you maybe just want to talk a little bit about stuff you've got coming out this year then before we finish? Because otherwise we're going to give Kieran 2 hours worth of stuff to edit. So we need to maybe start wrapping up soon.
Yeah. So yeah, what are you kind of working on at the moment?
Well, I'm working on we're hoping to shoot this movie that Peter Lenkov wrote called Bang, and it's a really good script. It's a really cool character, and it's an action movie, and it's got I mean, it's similar in the vein of like the John Wicks, like these, assassin type characters and stuff. But his take is very interesting, and he and I both agree that what we're going to try to do. We haven't shot it yet, so I can't say like it went smooth and I know what's going to come. But the things that we're talking about, and I love it. I love John Wick. I love all these, action movies and stuff. But it's like Jason Bourne. When Jason Bourne came out, all the action, first Doug Liman, and then especially when Paul Greengrass took over, the whole shaky cam action. You had a slew of them, take it like, they just went down that road. And then John Wick came out, and then this just endless gun fu stuff, which was really cool in John Wick. And, some movies you do it really well, but now it's like every action scene, someone's got to pull like jujitsu move or and all this stuff. So this script was like, for me, when I read it, it's in that vein, it's in that world. Peter Lenkov is a fantastic writer, and it shows. But like, my biggest thing was like, I want to do this, and I want to use all the toys that we have in 2021, but I want to make this like Die Hard. I want to make this like Lethal Weapon. I want to make this like, you know, guns killed people. You don't need to like, you know, break 5 bones and then put 4 bullets in. You know, like 1 bullet.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to roll it back and just be like, you know, can we have a movie where people are just
more classic?
They got, you know, they've got guns and like, you know, like I fucking enjoyed Extraction, you know, but Extraction is John Wick, you know, but a special forces dude instead of an assassin, you know, like the action scene is all cool, but it's all like, you've got a gun, you don't need to break his neck, just shoot him.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like, you know, and I really enjoy watching, you know, I watched Extraction like 2 or 3 times, but you know, and I loved it, but I just want to do, you know, where like, all right, I'll break your neck because I don't have a gun in my hand, but if I've got a gun in my hand, I'm going to shoot you in the head, and then you know, like we're just, you know, try to do that type of action movie.
Yeah,
you know, and thankfully, you know, Peter agreed, and like, you know, and again, we'll use the toys that we have today, all the different gadgets and everything, you know, but try to make a more old school type action film.
Yeah,
just proper action. You know, and then, you know, people fight because they don't have weapons in their hand. If they have a weapon in their hand, then, you know, they're going to use the weapon.
Yeah.
For reason why it's built, you know. I mean, I did it. I'm guilty of it, you know, because I thought Jet Li did it in Lethal Weapon 4, and it was cool where they take out the gun slide thing, you know, and I've had someone take out the gun slide thing and stab him in the neck, you know, and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, just shoot him. You know,
that reminds me then, actually. That reminds me of the thing I wanted to ask you about Ballistic, was the scene where Gant tries to get his minion guy to shoot himself, and then there's the gun that shoots backwards. Where did that come from? Was that in the original script, or was that your? Yeah,
Alan had written that in.
Okay.
You know? And it was one of those things where I was like, when I read it, I was like, wait, what happened? You know, like I was like, you know, and then I had to go back and like, oh, the gun fires backwards. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that was a little bit like that, but actually, I remember when we were speaking about it, that kind of shocked me because when it was happening, I thought, okay, he's going to pull a gun on him, he's going to try and shoot, and it's going to be an empty clip, and then he's going to be like, oh, well, you're not faithful to me or something, you know, you're a traitor. But then when he done it and he shot, I was like, whoa. He was
I'm glad, because when I read it and I understood it, and then, you know, obviously, but that's exactly how I read it too. I was like, oh, you know, this would be a nice, you know, like, because most of the time, and I mentioned that to Alan, most of the time it's either empty or, you know, Ray Park shoots him. Yeah. You hear the bullet and then you see Ray Park has shot him.
Yeah.
So I was like, this, you know, like, and that was all Alan, you know, like Alan had done that, you know, and that's the thing though. Okay. The biggest difference between doing indie movies and Hollywood.
Yeah.
In Hollywood, when you have that in the script, when you've got in the script where, like, you know, Sever, you know, goes to a lock, you know, injects it and it dissolves. You're sitting in your office and your prop department comes up and goes, hey, which you have a few minutes, we have the props ready to show you. And it's exactly like it's written. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh shit, what the hell is this? Like, I just saw a lock dissolve. Is this acid? No, it's not. You know, like, you know, I'm like, oh shit, this gun just fired backwards. Like, what did you do? Oh, we do, you know, we reversed this. That's Hollywood. Yeah. Outside of Hollywood, in the world that I live now, it's like, yeah, no, that's nothing like the script. Like, you know, like they come and you know, it's like your resources are just very different. You know, like it's not that the people you're working with can't do it. Yeah. They just don't have the resources to be able to just re-engineer everything. You know, like in Ballistic, we had the bus flip and break, you know, and those were all the things that I came up with and I wanted to happen. And then I've got Bruce Steinheimer, who's an Academy Award-winning VFX. I've got Joel Kramer, who's the stunt coordinator of Terminator 2, you know, and all these other, you know, True Lies and all this shit. Yeah. So, you know, we walk through it, I block it out, we build models, I show them everything. Fast forward 3 weeks later, I'm in a warehouse and, you know, here's the bus that splits open. It's got an engine in the front, engine in the back. You know, here's like this. You know, we went through like 6 different buses for, you know, like you're just sitting there going, holy shit. Oh, that's Hollywood.
Yeah. Welcome to Hollywood, baby. Yeah.
You know, And outside today, if I was going to do that same sequence, it's going to be like, okay, we have to shoot this in sequence, right? Because we have one bus.
Yeah.
Once we split it open, so we're going to do this shot, and there's going to be 10 guys who's going to be pulling this. There's it's not going to be driven separately. And that is the biggest difference between Hollywood and everybody else.
Yeah.
Aside from Bollywood, may be more extravagant than Hollywood.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard. Speaking of which, did you say earlier something you said earlier, and then you just kind of brushed right past it as if it was nothing? But did you say that you guys trained a beluga whale or something?
Yeah.
You can't just brush past that. You can't. Come on. Yeah, we just trained a beluga whale, and then he kind of carried on, and I was like, hold up.
Well, when we picked when I didn't pick it, when I had to go to Vancouver to shoot the movie.
Yeah.
My biggest thing was I'll go to Vancouver, but I'm only going to shoot it at Vancouver. So we have to change the script so that it's Vancouver. I don't want to go to Vancouver and just be limited to like these like long lenses and all this shit because I can't see landmarks and all this stuff. I want to shoot Vancouver. So that was okay. We agreed to that. So once we're in Vancouver and everything, again, you have to keep in mind everything I'm saying here for anyone listening and everything. There's no need to go and find Ballistic to try to watch the references, what I'm referring to, because none of that shit is in there. So like what I'm talking about now never made it into the movie. Okay. So
all the interesting stuff.
Pieces of it made it, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right. It does. So, okay. As a filmmaker, you're influenced by movies. And then like, especially if you grew up with movies like me, and then you want to pay homage. Someone will say you rip off, but like Blade Runner, the whole fucking origami thing. I loved it. As a kid watching it, I loved it and stuff. So that was something I wanted to give Sever. Right.
Yeah.
The stuff. And I was trying to build, the relationship between the son, the mom, and Ecks, and they're never really sharing a scene together or whatever, and then like the mom with the son, because the kid gets taken away quick and stuff. And Vancouver has an aquarium, and it's a very watery city and everything like that. So, I was thinking about an origami, because I was giving that to Sever, because, Sever's introduction to the movie is this long walk in a Chinese temple, which is, very Zen, very guarded, and she's like this white ghost that appears in and out, and she stops at a shrine, a new shrine for her child, her family that she just lost, and that's her introduction. That's literally the opening of the movie was that. And then like when she sits there and you think she's praying, right? But she's not. And she's building these origami, like little origami things, because that was what her kid liked to play with the most. What are these like, like little, because the kid, grew up on a camp and everything and just had these like paper dolls. So she builds them and then she leaves it as an offering in the shrine, and then it catches fire from the candles and burns, and as she walks away, you never see her face, you never, but that was her opening. So then the origami had a deeper meaning when you see her, like with it, it had a much deeper meaning. And then, so that was on her side, but on X's wife's side and everything, is like, I wanted the child to be obsessed with beluga whales. Because I saw it at the aquarium and it was one of the locations we went and I thought it was very pretty, and I wanted to stage the scene where Ecks and his wife reunite in front of this, because it was really pretty. But then I didn't want it. I didn't want to just come and shoot it because, it's pretty and there's a fucking beluga whale in the background. I wanted to build the beluga into this somehow, so I wanted to be like a place where, it was her son's favorite spot because he's obsessed with beluga whales, and we
noticed that he had a toy of the whale.
Yeah, and she, like
we noticed
Sever,
that. Yeah,
she softens up, but you don't see the relationship build with Sever and the kid in the cut, but we built it, and then it's a soft spot for her, where she goes and she, like she gets him a beluga whale sort of toy, to play with. She knows that that's what he likes, and everything, and And then okay, so this is not, it's not in there. It's not, but I visioned and I played it as like the child was a bit like, like on the spectrum.
Mhm.
You know how they're really smart, they're really, on something, but they're really focused on certain things, stuff. And I wanted this kid to be focused on that, where he'd be like, like not stable and stuff, but like the beluga whale keeps him happy, kind of thing, like that was what I was building for, and so we had this beluga whale train so that they're like, it was subtle, and in hindsight maybe too subtle, but it's like when the whale sees her, it's like, because the whale always sees her and the child together, so it always comes to her, like just on sight, and then like, and it's like looking around, like she always usually comes with the kid, but like she comes so often, and they've had this bond with this one whale, is that when she's there, it always comes to her, because it's been so we trained the whale to like, not we, the aquarium people had trained the whale to like to like when she shows up, it swims to her, and it stays around her and everything long enough where we can get the shot when she's walking, and it follows her and everything like that, and believe me, I know that none of that, not even an ounce of it, is conveyed in the cut that everyone sees, but that was the story behind it.
Yeah. I guess that like, when you're talking about all of these things that kind of got changed a little bit, like there's little breadcrumbs like that we kind of picked up on, but we were like, but it makes no sense. Like it hasn't been set up right. It hasn't been done right. Because we noticed the doll. One of our friends who does the podcast with us noticed the doll, the beluga whale toy.
Uh-huh.
Matt wanted to ask about the origami, which is obviously an homage and stuff. And there was just little things throughout the film that were kind of like, it almost, there's almost like a little idea here, but it's just not done right. And then obviously when you do your research and look behind the scenes and have a conversation with you, it starts to shed some light on the why these things don't actually end up making full sense.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and it's absolutely true, and it's still true to this day. I have never seen that movie from beginning to end finished.
That's crazy.
I can't.
Really?
The only time I've seen the cut that's out there was when I color graded it with Julio. And back then, because it's film and the way things were set up, when we were color grading it, there was no sound at Technicolor. We're just watching the picture, and we were grading the picture. And I could watch it because there was no sound.
Mm.
I went to a screening. It was a press screening. And literally 15 minutes in, I was hyperventilating. And my girlfriend at the time had to take me out of the theater, and because I was like, I can't watch this. For the premiere, I literally stayed out for almost an hour before I went to my seat, because I just like, because towards the end it's just a lot of shit blowing up and stuff, and I'm okay with that. Like I'll watch the action, because the action was pretty solid, but all the stuff that was not in there that like was so important to me, that was like, so I can't watch it. And you'd think that it'd been 20 years that, because my friend the other day was like, hey, let's just watch it. I'm like, fuck no.
Fuck you.
I moved so way past it. Like I could talk about it.
Yeah.
Happy to talk about it. But like, it's like PTSD all over again. Like why would I go back to season 5? It's just like, it took me a decade to get so there's no rewatch it now. Like what, I might go down this spiral.
So there's no sequel in the cards, man.
Irony of that was 2 years after the movie came out, I got a call, and it was like they want to do a direct to video sequel, and at a time where the direct to video sequel was still like, they're still spending like 15, 16, 17 million dollars on it. It wasn't like these two, and stuff.
Yeah,
that was so funny. But what was I gonna say? I forgot. I thought. But so the latest movie that I did was One Night in Bangkok. I don't know if you guys. I don't know if it's out. It should be out in England pretty soon or something.
I don't know if it is yet. Not that one, but Paradise Z is for sure.
Paradise Z. Okay, I'm super proud of it because it was like, I'll tell you exactly right. We weren't doing anything. and we're talking to Grindstone, and they're like, we're looking for zombie movies. I'm like, oh, okay. I've never done a zombie movie. I love zombie movies, and we had time, and it had to be done. They weren't paying a lot for it, so it was like super low budget, like really low budget. And I was like, you know what? I had an idea. I was like, all right, two people, women, obviously, because there's got to be some sort of selling point, right? Like two women is always going to be easier to sell than two guys,
right?
Unless they're Rambo and Cobra,
Vin Diesel and Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, yeah. And it was just like, I don't know if they've sold this around the world yet. I don't know if I should say this, but it was an experiment for me because we basically shot that movie with no script. And it was just sort of like, all right, this is how many days I'm going to do it in, which was 9 days, by the way. And we're just going to go there for 9 days, and we're just going to like figure shit out and just, make it up and everything. And amazingly, we put together a movie, which was then, sold. And, it was like, okay. But it's not for everyone. It's not a bad movie, but it's not for everyone.
Did you know that, like, what you had, like you say that you kind of went and shot on the fly and sort of, did you even know that you were going to have a film by the end of that until you got to the edit suite and was like, okay, we can actually get something going here? Or how did that work?
I knew how I wanted to begin, and I knew how I wanted to end.
Right.
And I knew I wanted to be very mundane. Right. I wanted to be like, Matt, you the two of you. If all of a sudden you were doing this podcast, in your apartment building, in your house or whatever, and it was in the same building, and then a zombie, pandemic broke out, and you guys were stuck there, how would you adapt? Right. Yeah. But that was the idea. But then it was like, okay, if you're stuck in your apartment, it's kind of boring. But if you're stuck in a resort where, there's things to do and everything, I have more to explore.
Yeah.
And we knew this resort, and it wasn't very busy. We talked to the owners, and they said, yeah, come shoot. So it was like, so we just paid for the rooms. We didn't even have to pay for the location. We just paid, and it was very cheap. It's like, so we paid for the rooms to book the crew and everything, and we spent 9 days shooting, and things would develop, and stuff. And okay, as we were prepping, as we were stuff, I had I knew someone, and I put together my notes, and I had him write it up into a script. But the script was a loose basis so the crew could work. If you don't have a script, then the crew doesn't know what to prep, but then like nothing was locked in stone. And then we just shot, and we just made things up. And that was two of us, which became Paradise Z, which is something else in America. I don't know. When they sell movies, they change titles.
I've seen that somewhere else. Like something like, I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
But
it was a companion piece to The Driver, which was the main one that the studio wanted, which was a bigger budget, and so I just decided that, I just tell this story set in the same world, and it's supposed to be 3 movies. And the third movie I kept, last because it required the most money, because, 2 of us was very small and intimate and very experimental in terms of just 2 people, 2 women, caught in this pandemic in a small resort. The Driver is all about a father and a daughter, and all that stuff, and stuff. And then the third one was supposed to be called The Rider, and it was this, and it was going to be. It's basically samurais versus zombies, because the guy's a samurai, like, he's like a last descendant, sword maker, and stuff, and everything. And he lives and it's in the same world, but the Rider was supposed to be like the beginning of the pandemic, like the beginning of the zombie outbreak, and you see how everything goes, and then it was supposed to all tie in together, because like if you've seen The Driver, you see Mark, he's got a blue BMW, and I had put it into the script, like in The Rider. You see how Mark, because the Rider, they have their path cross, and then you see how Mark comes to get that blue BMW.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Just shit like that.
Yeah.
We haven't shot the third movie yet, but So those 2, were the zombie movies. But the one we did that just came out last was One Night in Bangkok. That one I really like. We really like that one. Like Mark and I really, again, not for everyone. It's more of a slow burn character kind of, study kind of thing. And
Right.
yeah, but I thought that, that came out pretty good. Like, just wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And when you try to do something different and, no one's giving me, $200 million to do something different, then you got to like think really small and like
adapt and improvise.
Yeah. Cause even out here, even with what I'm doing, I still have to hit certain marks. Like people will give me money to do like straight action movies. Like this one I'm doing with Peter Lenkov. It's not that hard to find the money because it's an action movie.
Yeah.
It's easy to sell. You can see the poster, and stuff like that. And this will have more money and everything. But when you do something like that, like a One Night in Bangkok, even with Mark in it, it's still very small budget. Like it still has to be very contained. So then like when I think of the stories and stuff, it's like I have to try to think of like how to maximize the money I have the best way to do it. And then, for independent filmmakers, you always have to, again, if you want a career, you can't overlook your fiduciary responsibility to your investor.
Yeah.
So whatever money that you get, you have to make sure that A, it goes into making the movie, and B, you make the money back. Because if you keep making the money back, and even if like, the whole world hates your movie, but the distributors and the investors make their money back, you'll keep making movies.
Yeah.
You'll still be able to keep doing this. But if you make a movie and you lose everybody money, but the 25 people that saw your movie thinks it's the best thing in the world, that's it. That you're not gonna, like good luck finding, so you have to find the balance.
Yeah.
And I'm in a position where I've done, I won't talk about all of them, but I've done 4 or 5 movies out there that I don't put my name on, but I say that from the beginning. Like when they come to me and they give me the script and I'm like, this is a fucking terrible script. Like, but we want you to do it. I'm like, it's a fucking terrible script. We'll pay your rate. It's okay. When do we start? And then it's like, all right, you can't put my name on it. No problem.
Yeah.
Just make the movie. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I've had a case where I did that. And then the producer put my name on it anyways, even though we have a contract. And then I'm like, dude, we have a deal. And the answer was, sue me. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah, because you don't want to go through that, do you? You don't really want to go through that. God damn.
Oh, I did forget. I do have a movie that's finished, that just finished. And I forgot because it's a movie that's 8 years in the making.
Wow. Okay.
And
Oh wow.
literally just finished it in December. It's not a passion project. It's not 8 years because it's a passion project.
Okay.
It's a movie that we're working with a producer who, and we have a budget for the movie. Everything's done. I had Kane Kusugi and Jason Patrick. And in fucking 2014, 15, 6, 7, 14 maybe, we started shooting it. Before we shot it, Jason Patrick, fantastic actor, relatively, like a star. Cost a lot of money. Pay or play paid him. And
is it Jason Patrick from Speed 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We watched that recently as well.
Yeah, we watched that recently. Yeah.
Great guy, fantastic actor. We paid him his money. He was on his way to Bangkok. Cut to the producer. Kane is a friend of mine. The movie I talked about where I put, they weren't supposed to put my name on and they did, was Tekken 2. When we made the movie, it wasn't even called Tekken. It was like Agent K. It was like, it became Tekken after the movie. Anyways, I met Kane on that movie and it was one of the best things to happen. I love Kane. And, but my name wasn't supposed to be on that movie, but it is. And, because the script was terrible. And, so Kane and I became really good friends. Kane brought in a producer. The producer found money to do a script that I had called Max. And Max is like my sort of take on Promise Crown Affair, James Bond, all these type of, high-end upscale killer movies type, assassin, whatever. But was a different take. It was at its core, it's a love story, but it's like a femme fatale type love story. Anyways, Jason was on his way to Bangkok, and the producers' investors didn't come through. We didn't have the money we're supposed to have. We had the first allotment of money to get us prepped and ready, and we're waiting for the second installment to go into production because Jason was going to land and we were going to start shooting a week later. So we had two options: pull the plug, lose the money that we paid Jason. It wasn't my money, mind you,
Yeah.
But this was something that Kane really liked and he really wanted to do, and he was the one who was working with his producer to find the money. So Kane decided to pay out of his own pocket because he's a big star in Japan. He does a lot of work, and shoot out Jason first, right? So we shot for like 11 days, and we shot all of Jason Patrick scenes, like a lot of stuff, and then the producer was gonna, he was like, give me like 6 months, I'll put this all together and we'll do it. And then it's 6-7 years later, and we're nowhere close to doing it. So then Kane calls me during the pandemic with everything going on. So he's not working. No one's really working. So he's like, all right, this was going to be like around like a $3 million, $3 million movie.
Yeah.
All in, like a decent budget, especially in Thailand. So we shot the first half, and we spent, roughly, not even the first half, like all of Jason's stuff, and which cost, including Jason's fee and everybody and everything, was around $1 million already. So we're sitting on a lot of, expensive footage. I had nothing in it. Like, it wasn't my money, but I love Kane. So in September, Kane was like, dude, I really want to finish this. Like, we have to do something. Otherwise, it's $1 million, just down the drain, like even if we finish it and whatever, but at least we have a movie, so I'm like, where are we going to find $2 million to do this or whatever, And it's like, let me look around. And then, no joke, he found someone to put in $350,000 to finish the movie. And I'm like, I can't finish this movie, the script at $350,000. It's like, can you try to figure out something? So I came up with something, and we shot for 8 days. And what I came up with was like so left field, out of this world. I don't even know if it works or not. And I've just finished the cut, like, and it's not the first cut, it's like the third cut already, with the movie's now down to like a good like 95 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah. I really like it. Everyone really likes it. Kane loves it. The whole, like everyone that's seen it, but everyone that's seen it for the most part are people who have worked on it.
Yeah.
And frankly, so you can't really judge. But it's the first time ever. Like, I talked about Tekken, and there's a lot of movies where like, I knew the script was bad. We do our best, we try our best, but it's a bad script. Like Tekken 2, it's a bad script. The movie's not going to be any better. But hopefully, the fight scenes are cool. Kane is cool. The cinematography isn't that bad. Like it's something you can, we do our best.
Yeah.
But like the point of that was that at the end of Tekken and at the end of all these movies, I'm looking at it and go, all right, we did our best. It's still shit, but we did our best. Okay, let's move on. This is the first time where I'm like, I have no clue, because I really like it. But because of the journey we came on, because of like all the ups and downs with this movie and everything, the fact that it's finished and the things that we tried in these 8 days that were so outlandish and so out there, I think worked. I think that colors my opinion of it, where like, I cannot tell if A, I have a movie, B, if it's any good, but I really like it.
Well, that's enough. That's enough to get me interested. When do you think? When do you think you could expect like a release for that then? Because it's weird times at the moment, isn't it? So,
well, it's being scored right now, and my composer, who's fantastic, he's now in LA. His name's Justin. He's probably going to take 10 weeks to score the movie. Once he scores it, I'll probably take another month to mix it, to mix and grade it,
Yeah.
But it's like, because, the one thing is like we've shot, and it's like, it's just, first of all, I had to do what I had to do because Kane is so different. It's 7 years later. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have the money to shoot, like, if I do a close up of Kane and I intercut it with what we shot, it's like, it's two different people.
Yeah.
It's two different people, and we have some really cool fight scenes that we've shot. And there's, and I think we did some really cool, a couple more fight scenes, but it's not an action movie now, but it's got all these, but like, it's really like, it's very different.
Does it have a title? Does it have a title yet? Or are you still kind of working on that?
Because I don't think Max works anymore. Like, the original was called Max. And it was Jason, but Max was supposed to be like Bourne, like it was MAX, double X, and he was a killer known as Max, like everybody just called him Max.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, it was a serious move, but it was like a little riff, because, like, how like Bond is like, Bond, James Bond.
Yeah.
When people finally meet him, because he's like this infamous killer, it's always like Max with two X's.
Yeah.
That was his thing, like, but it was just, like I said, it's an homage to all those movies I love.
Yeah.
But, like, and then so that was the original, and it was supposed to be serious and everything, and now it's just like, now it's
who knows?
I'll give you the quick premise of it. Now Kane is like a C-level action star, and the last movie he did was this movie called Blood Ronin, which was all the footage I shot with Kane and Jason Patrick, was his greatest hit, like was the biggest hit ever, called this action movie called Blood Ronin, starring, Max in the movie and Jason Patrick. But it's been 13 years since that movie been released, and he hasn't done a movie again, so he's like, when you meet him, he lives in a nice house, but everywhere you see, like, it's just posters from that one movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, and when I talked to Kane about it, I was like, think of that movie as sort of like Gymkata, like a movie that action film, like an old 80s movie called Gymkata, which was like not very good, but it was very famous and successful. And if you were around in the 80s and you liked action movies, everyone saw it. Right, everyone, you can look it up on the internet, right? Like, so think of that. Like, it's like it's a famous movie that wasn't successful. So he's not like Tom Cruise or anything, but he's so that's where he's at. When you meet him, and he's and he's being asked to come back and make another action movie 13 years later, and he's a bit rusty. He's a bit, he's not sure if he can do it, and the people who want him to make this movie are like these independent production company with it's weird, but it's like, but it was a way I could use footage that was shot with Kane and Jason.
Oh yeah.
To bring into, and then, but yet still be able to tell a coherent story. Without having to fake everyone 7 years later. You know what I mean? So literally, when you're watching this movie, you're actually seeing three movies. You're seeing the old Blood Ronin. You're seeing the current movie, but then you're actually going to see also the movies that they're making. The new movies that they're making. So it's like, it's
layers on
should
layers.
We finish? But should we finish that then?
I do make it simple for everyone, because every time we're about to switch between movies, they do go through a turnstile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a turnstile.
Like Tenet.
Yeah, they all come out. They're all wearing oxygen masks, so you know what's going on.
Yeah. So that I'm really curious to know if we're going to be able to sell it or not.
Yeah.
And and B, if we do and it gets out there, how people are gonna like, because it's like it's very.
How's it going to be received? Yeah.
And
Well,
I hope
it sounds like you
Jason
have-
Patrick doesn't watch this because he doesn't know about it. I haven't told him that we've changed it. Like,
I don't think we'll be running the risk too high on that one.
No.
Which sounds like you're very busy for the next little while anyway, with all these little projects going on. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and having a little chat with us. It's been really laid back and really fun for us. We really
Yeah, it's been
appreciate
lots
the
of
chat.
fun. Thanks.
Yeah,
thank you.
so
No, my pleasure.